In 2020, man, I was on the brink of becoming a full-time professional stand-up comic. And then everything shut down and all my dates were knocked off my calendar. God used the podcast to open my eyes about what I could do in this online space that we're kind of in, the aspect of 15 minutes, what you can do, and the aspect of what you can do in 15 seconds. They both go such a long way.
Welcome to the Biz Life Podcast. I am Donnie Bedore, your host. We are here to talk about the business life, not the busy life. So I have a special guest here, Zach Rippey. You are from I Love Birds podcast. That's how I know you.
Yes, sir.
Right? But I want to dive in a little bit, not just to your podcast, right? But also want to dive in a little bit to your other business that you have as well, too.
Yep.
So listen, if you're watching, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, stay tuned. You're going to get some good business tips along the way, I know, and definitely some great stories. So let's dive in. First, so the podcast is definitely dedicated to the small entrepreneur or big entrepreneur, whatever, business person. Someone just gets some inspiration, right? And so I'd like to start off with a little bit about you. So if you could share with the audience, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. I'm Zach Rippey. I have the I Like Birds podcast. We often hear I Love Birds, and we were just able to just steward that back into the I Like Birds realm. In 2020, man, I was on the brink of becoming a full-time professional stand-up comic. And then everything shut down and all my dates were knocked off my calendar. And then I was at the time working a part-time waiter job, and I was able to put my 2 weeks in right before the massive shutdown happened. So I was like completely devastated because I moved to Texas for my dream. My wife and I moved here. I was chasing comedy. She was chasing her family again, and being reunited with them while we had our first child, Malachi, together. And so I was out performing all the time. I was, on the road. I was at casinos and comedy clubs, and I was starting to make some real money doing it. And so I put in my 2 weeks, and then boom, the economy shut down. And that's when I needed to seek godly counsel. Right. I was like, Lord, like, what are you doing with this?
Right.
And then I basically opened up the book of John that truly changed my life. The gospel just really spoke to me in a way that it hasn't spoken before because I was in church for years. And I feel like I missed the revelation of the gospel. And then boom, I just felt like this ultra calling from the Lord to be able to use the gifts that he gave me to glorify him instead of myself. So that's what led to the podcast. So I've had to have a new relationship with comedy since finding Jesus, because a lot of the jokes that I used to think were funny, I don't think I can tell those anymore as a Christian, So I've had to kind of, clean up my act a little bit and just get, replace certain words and exactly, and just find ways to be funny without compromising the heart of Jesus, that I feel like is in me now, that I know is in me now, to be able to do his will and just walk in the fullness that he has for me.
I love that. So you and your wife, when did y'all meet?
So we met. She was actually, so I have an older son that is from my previous relationship. I was in a high school relationship for 4 years. She got pregnant the year after we were out of high school, and we named him Noah. We split, and I decided, man, I really wanted Noah to grow up in a church. I didn't get that experience. I got invited to church. So I, we went to church. I was seeking the Lord, then, as well in a way. And I loved hearing about Jesus, but I never felt like I truly knew him or wanted to obey him pretty much. It wasn't there yet. It took a while to get there,
Sure.
But I went to go pick up my son from Sunday school, one day, and in this beautiful woman's arms, there he was. And I said, man, that looks really good right there. This woman holding my child, and he was just, and that was the thing too. He wasn't one to want to be held, by anybody. And I was like, man, that's a little interesting. And so I did what, most people that age do. And I found her on Facebook to see what was up with her. And she had a huge heart for Africa. She had all her profile pictures were with her and little kids in Uganda. And I was like, man, who is this woman? She's special. I haven't met anybody like this before.
Yeah.
And I asked her on a date. And next thing I know, I'm falling in love with her at the coffee shop when she's telling me cool stories. She once did a talent show where she played the piano with her toes. And I was like, bro, I like this. This is cool.
That's insane.
I know. Wow. So I fell in love with her really quickly, and she was just a good girl. And I wanted to make her my wife. She was way out of my league and my weight class, so I had to make sure I put a ring on it.
I identify with that for sure.
And so we got married in 2017, amazing wedding, so much fun.
That's cool.
And then we ended up moving to Texas in 2018.
Nice.
And we've had 3 kids since. So we have a 5-year-old named Malachi, a 2-year-old named Ezekiel, and we just had our baby girl about 3 weeks ago named Selah.
Man, congratulations.
Thank
dude.
you, bro. I appreciate that. Girl dad now, so it's amazing.
I love it. Very cool. Well, cool. Thanks for sharing that, And so you've settled so you started the podcast just shortly after in 2020 is when you started?
Yeah, in March, man, or in May. I felt like I found the Lord March through May. And then May was in that season where I was like, all right, let's take action to the faith, and just do what he calls me to do.
Yeah. What else do you do business-wise besides the podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast doesn't pay the bills.
That's why I'm asking, because
it doesn't pay the bills.
This podcast definitely doesn't pay really anything. So yet,
I will say, God used the podcast to open my eyes about what I could do in this online space that we're kind of in.
Yeah.
So I had such a huge passion for the podcast. I wanted to take the podcast on the road, So in 2021, I was working at a part-time waiter job. The Biden check stopped coming through.
Yeah.
The unemployment check stopped coming in. So I had to go get a real job again,
Yeah.
And so I was working at a restaurant that I just didn't like at the time. They made us wear masks and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of pushing the vax on us. It was in Clear Fork. I ain't gonna say no names, but Doc B's.
Nice.
No, so they're great. I was just really burned out from the restaurant industry at the time, and me and my wife were just really seeking, something bigger and more. And I lost my best friend around that time as well too. So I was really just having this hunger spirit to like get out there and just see what else is out there in the world. So we bought an RV, and we sold all of our stuff, and we downsized everything. We watched YouTube videos on how to live in an RV and how to do it well. And I'm not handy, so like this was a big leap of faith.
Yeah.
And that same time I bought the RV, that same month I created a Fiverr account. And a Fiverr account is actually like a freelancing platform where people search all over the globe for different services.
Okay.
So I leveraged the podcast experience, and one of the gigs that I created as a new Fiverr member, you're allowed to create 3 gigs.
Okay.
So one of the gigs was actually for podcast script writing, because I was writing on my own podcast and we had success, and I was like, yo, I can do this for somebody else. Like this is enjoyable to me.
Yep.
So I started doing that, and I started working on shows and helping people grow their platforms, and then I elevated to switching the keywords to YouTube and YouTube scripts. So then I started working on YouTube. And then one of the reasons I got into stand-up comedy was because I had a wedding speech that at my wedding that actually crushed, and that's what led me into comedy. So I kind of went back in time and saw that was something I had a gifting in. So I used the leveraging of comedy to intersect that into that gig as well. So I was like, I'll write your best man speech or your wedding speech. And then boom, people would hire me because I saw I had experience in comedy. And then those 2 gigs really took off, and I was able to scale up, just make my prices a little bit more. And I kept doing that to the point where I became, in 2 years, a top rated seller on there. Made almost $100K on the 3rd year I was on there in 2022, which was booming then. I think that's because there was a high demand for wedding speeches there during that time. It's since fallen off, but also not fallen off, but just kind of, you have a great year and then you're like, oh, this could happen again. And then you're like,
Right. Yeah. It's cycle of business.
I'm 20 grand short, than it was last year, and, but also like, I think my heart for doing that was like super high there. Like I really wanted to be able to like maximize that, really help as many people as possible, and like, let's grow this thing. And then once it became that, I was like, all right, like my true passion is like the Lord. Like I want to be able to do this podcast, do this ministry. And so a lot of times I've chosen the podcast over my business sometimes, and that's not always smart, but I've seen the fruit of that when it comes to just growing a business. And like you have to be really intentional about it. You have to maximize your everything when it comes to your reach, to your graphics, to your videos, everything that you can to really just bring new clients in.
Yeah. And what really intrigues me about you and everything that you're doing is, I think what you're doing, it's very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs to grasp with the social media and the just online presence and things like that, right? They know their craft. They know how to, paint or, wash vehicles or something like that, but they're not a marketer at heart, right?
Yeah.
And, you've really crafted your way into this, and it seems like it's just coming from, man, I just love doing it, right?
Yeah,
I just love doing it. And what do you think for the entrepreneur? Do you think that maybe a couple things that could help them get into this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you open the door to this realm of putting yourself out there, right? I mean, it was difficult for me to to start this podcast. You've been doing it a lot longer than I have, right? I'm still a rookie. But also for comedy, to stand up in front of, an audience and be like, okay, I'm going to give it my best joke. And if they don't laugh, it's like, crap.
I know. It's a tough feeling, dude. I actually wear this little necklace. It's a microphone. And there's like some black jewels that fell out. And I always say that when people like point out the necklace, I'm like, yeah, all the jewels that fell out are for all the times I bombed on stage.
No. Yeah.
So, but no, man, it's a lot of it has to do with passion, man. I truly believe when you have the passion for something, you're able to just like, I wake up so excited. Like I love my family, but I'm so excited to work. Like I love creating. I love the aspect of growing and building,
right?
And I love the idea of like getting an idea and then applying it. And not only that, like I love to share ideas that I have for other people. Like I like to be the encourager of like, yo, did you think of this? Like, because I tried this and this kind of really worked. Yeah. And then so getting your skin in the game, I think it's important if you're in this kind of marketplace of like creative or something where you have to do it online, you have to understand that there is a digital real estate now that's attributed to your name.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so there's like, when people search my name, you're going to see video after video of podcasting. You're going to see video after video of my business. I call it I Like Words. So I Like Birds and I Like Words.
I got you. Okay, that's clever. I like that.
See, I appreciate it. It's clever. It's one of those things where I feel like I trust the Lord to like give me the downloads to be able to apply them and just kind of execute on the ideas for my business, because at the end of the day, I'm doing it for Him, because I'm helping people. When it comes to speech writing is my main thing, and that's where I feel like the Lord really wants me to hone in on, because there's a moment in time when you're up there and you're giving a speech at a wedding or even a eulogy or a graduation or even a corporate event where it's all about connecting with people.
Right.
And I think that's where the sweet spot is for relationship building, as well as just gaining knowledge, as well as just furthering what He has called you to do. So I love to help people with that.
Yeah.
And that digital real estate that you're in, man, it's important because you almost are competing in a landscape where other people are doing it as well. But if you stand out in a way that is going to be able to build a community, and you build a client list, you build an email list, next thing you know, you have real access to people at, like every single day of your life, and you're able to remind people what kind of business you do and how you can help them through the power of just simply making a social media post, through the power of making a video, through the power of sending out one of those newsletters that we were talking about earlier today.
Yep.
And even through the power of a book, and one of the big reasons that, do you know who John Maxwell is?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, so good.
Yoda of leadership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bro. I've been really on his stuff because we got to see him in the beginning of the month in North Carolina.
That. I'm not jealous at all.
I know, it's so good.
Losers.
Me and Taylor.
Yeah.
And but one of the things he said was that the reason that he wrote all the books that he did was so he can reach an audience that he could never reach in his inner circle. And that really stuck out to me because it was like the answer that kind of went alongside my mission and my vision. It's like, man, I have so many great friends. I have really great people in my life that I pour into, that pour into me, that we connect with. But there's also like there's a huge ocean, and I'm trying to cast a really big net to help as many people as I can, not for my glory, but for His, So if I can guide people to that truth through the passion of my podcast, through the passion of even my writing work, then that's the win. That's the victory. That's the calling being seen in fruition.
I love it. And man, you're speaking to the choir, right? I freaking love your passion, and I get excited the same way, right? And I love sharing ideas. I love helping people. Matter of fact, we just had a store from Abilene, Grace Craze store from Abilene, come in, and we were able to help them get this order knocked out because they took the order before they were opened. So I'm like, hey man, come on in.
Come on.
So the whole time I'm like, man, you should do this. How about this and this? And they're like, oh man, let me write that down, right?
Yeah.
That excites me, helping people.
It does, man. You got to give.
Really does.
Like give. They always talk about like on the entrepreneur space, like you got to provide value. Right. But it's like people say that, but don't do it. And they don't know how to do it. I think it's just giving everything you can.
Yeah.
Like connecting people. Like somebody texted me on the way here. Hey, you mind connecting me with Pastor Troy? I have an email like that I sent him. And I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to try my best. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to figure out a way. Like it's it's one of the things where if people ask you for something, like find a way to make it happen. They're coming to you for a reason. And it's like, if you have the ability, like take that time. I always say there's a power in 15 seconds. If something takes you 15 seconds, do it.
Right.
It does not like, all I have to do is connect you in a group chat. All I have to do is be like, yo, my friend sent me an email, you know, and, or even just when it comes to knowledge and information, it's like, yeah, man, like this girl reached out the other day from my church asking me, she really wants to write a book. So she was like looking for tips and advice and stuff like that. So I sent some voice memos her way and even connected her to like a publisher that I just met that weekend, you know? So it's like one of these things where it's like, if people know that they can rely on you to help them, like how much bigger and better does that make your brand?
I agree.
You know?
True. I mean, and you know, you look at your business, right? Whatever, you know, call it, you know, Fuji. We're not sponsored by Fiji Water, but say that's your brand, right? Or that's your company. You still have another brand that's behind that, and that's you.
Yeah.
Right. And you put yourself out there, because this may end up selling one day. Right. You may say, you know what, I'm done with this and I want to do something else. And if you don't have a brand of yourself, a network of yourself, then it's going to be very difficult to build up that other whatever. Right. But if you have that brand of yourself, then you can have this as a company, this as a company, this as a company, and they can all sort of interlace. And
exactly, dude. And and I'm actually, you'll be the first to hear it. I won't even tell my audience at first, but I'm starting a coffee company called I Like Beans.
Bro, really?
Yeah, I was starting a little coffee company. Me and Taylor actually did some sampling the other day. And so I'm working with a distributor or a roaster, I should say. And we're going to do like some packaging. We're actually going to consider it fully promoted. Hey, friendly shout out to our packaging, because I remember you telling me that. That y'all do that. So we're kind of in the works for that. But at the same time, it's like, and you gave a great illustration with the Fiji water. So for people watching, this is great stuff. But okay, so you're talking about like selling the Fiji water, you might move on.
Yeah.
So I got a great illustration that today, actually, right before I came here, that it's not about, they didn't buy the outside of the Fiji water. They bought the inside. They bought what can provide for them.
Right.
So you are the thing that can provide for people in order to like be used to give further value to them. You know, this water is going to fill me up. This water is going to hydrate me. So this water is actually what I really need for myself.
Right.
But this is just a container that holds it.
Yep.
You know, so I think that's a powerful kind of representation of like how we're called by God to be vessels for him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways I feel like I can best help other people for his glory. Because if you think about it, like selfishness is one of the biggest problems in our country, you know? And if we can kind of break the mold on that, we will look different than the world.
Yeah.
We will look like Christ because we're, you know, no matter how busy our day is, if we're making time for other people, like the Lord sees that and he's going to honor that. And he knows that, that he can trust you with more because you're doing a lot with a little that you're given.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I realized that lesson, because that's a deep lesson, whenever I realized that, said, you know what, my life is not about me. It's about me being a conduit. Right. And the moment I did that and I said, you know what, I'm going to help anybody and everybody. If someone asks for help and I have the ability, like you were talking about the 15 seconds, right? If I have the ability, the answer will always be yes.
Yeah.
Right. And the moment I did that, it's like doors opened up.
Yep.
Doors opened up.
So true, man.
Yeah.
And the reason I kind of formed that mindset, man, I was in this past September, I was in Tennessee writing my next book about my friend who passed away because he went to a cabin. He lost his life going whitewater rafting. So I went to the same cabin that he was staying at. So the owner of that cabin, her name's Kelly. She ended up starting, and not number one, she blessed like my best friend Armani and his fiance Kelly like so much while they were there. During that whole tragedy. They were like, she was connecting them, making sure they got meals and just helping them like top of the line. She also lost her son at the similar age as Armani did. So it was kind of like her opportunity to kind of be there for them the way she wished somebody was there for her son when she lost her son. And so I was just talking to her on the phone and she started a GoFundMe for them during that time. And that GoFundMe hit like 60 grand, dude, for medical costs for my boy and his family. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I was just so like, it was just so miraculous. Like 60 grand is so much money, like for it to be raised, you know. I get it. It's a tragic story, the way he lost his life and all that. And, you know, glory to God and glory to the people that that contributed to that. But one of the things that she shared with me was like, I mean, I didn't really do anything. I just took 15 minutes to create a GoFundMe account.
Yeah.
And she's like, if people would just spend 15 minutes to do something for somebody else in a time of need, like how much better would this world be?
Man.
And then I was like, it was just so like powerful because it was like the aspect of 15 minutes, what you can do, and the aspect of what you can do in 15 seconds. They both go such a long way.
Yeah, no, true story. True story. Well, I'd like to go into, you have a couple things here, right? So you have a book, 21 Days in Africa.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Tell me about this.
Yeah, man. So I've never been out of the country, other than Dominican Republic for my honeymoon.
Okay.
But my wife, like I was saying, she had a heart for Uganda. When, that was one of the things that attracted me to her. And turns out her mom actually started a nonprofit there called the Subi Project, where they raise children. You know, they provide education for them, 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
You know, provide their needs. If they get hurt, they help. They make a way. And make it just a huge difference there for a village in Uganda that has like 27 million people, and then the school has about 220 kids. So people all over the world sponsor a kid to go to school, and it's like I think it's in the like 65 for like a middle schooler, and then I think 38 for like an elementary school kid to go to school.
Okay.
So I went with them to experience what it's like to love on them, to minister to them. I had an opportunity to preach out there, as well as an opportunity to speak at a like a celebration. So it was really cool. It was an opportunity that I never thought I was going to actually get because of the fact of all the things that were required to get there. It just felt like you had to jump through a lot of hoops, but actually, you know, it worked out well. And I went during COVID, you know, so this was even more, stipulations. I didn't have to get, you know, the ouchie fouchie, but I did have to get the yellow fever, you know. So I went out there and, man, it was just an incredible experience, man. Just seeing like the love of God out there and the joy for Jesus despite poverty. You know, they have like holes in their shirts. They take baths in kiddie pools, and they don't make money. You know, they have a really hard life, but yet their joy for Jesus and praising and dancing and praising God, even in just middle of the conversation, they're at church for hours upon hours, and they're just really honed in on that. And it was just so cool to just see the differences of what the love of God looks like there versus what it looks like here. Yeah. And so I wrote about the experience, man. We ministered the orphans, we ministered the widows, we reconciled families, we fed people. Like, it was a whole great experience. And then I was on my way out. I was supposed to be only there for 10 days. And then I popped a positive for COVID.
Okay.
So at the airport, I basically got turned away, you know, and I had to go back to the compound for 7 days until I can get cleared. Yeah. And so that's where I wrote majority of the book. And I just really wanted to write it so Americans that might not ever get a chance to go can have their eyes open to what happens there, as well as just get closer to God and laugh, because we're going to tell some jokes in there. And,
I love it.
So yeah, it was a really good book that I feel like tells a really great story that needs to be heard.
Yeah, I that's amazing, and I definitely want to get a copy of that.
This one's for you, man. I signed it and everything.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's for you.
Oh, man. That's so cool. All right, 21 Days Never. How do people get this?
It's on Amazon. That's the easiest way. 2-day shipping and goes straight to your house. Nice. Or you can go to ilikebirdsministry.com and I'll sign a copy for you and I'll send it to you via mail.
Appreciate that. So I have been on out of the country several times.
Nice.
Actually, a lot.
Yeah, you seem like one of those dudes that's like out here hiking.
I try to. That's my getaway. I experience. I feel like whenever I'm out exploring and doing things like that, I'm closer to what heaven's going to be like, right? Just loving on people, learning about other cultures and things like that. So first mission trip I ever went on was actually in China.
Oh.
Yeah, and so you definitely could not speak about God, Jesus, nothing.
So how'd you do it?
So it's the company was the church, and the boss was God, right?
There you go.
And so our mission was just to backpack through the Himalaya mountains and count homes, and then just that's it, and pray as we go. That was our whole mission, is just to pray, like prayer walk, and count homes. That way they knew for the next group that would come in, right? And so that was our first mission. It was probably 15 years ago, and I went back, same area. And actually, I got to see some of the same people I met on the first trip.
Sweet.
But the difference was the second trip, the missionary that we went with had a vehicle, so we didn't have to hike everywhere. We got so much more done. It was awesome.
And you're like way older.
There was 10 years between the two. So
yeah, it's way different.
Anyway, it was really cool. So taught English in Nicaragua and built orphanages in Mexico, and we've been on a lot of mission trips. So
that's amazing, bro.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Two things that really stick out on the mission trip. Number one, I think everybody needs to go to a third world country and feel that and experience that, right? You're going to be totally different whenever you come back here, because this is a different country than anywhere out there.
Absolutely.
And then two, it was such a battle for me coming back here because I'm like, gosh, we are so distracted and spoiled and
I know,
wasteful and everything else.
Yeah,
and that's anywhere I go. If I go on a vacation to somewhere, I come back, I experience that.
Yeah, you just start dunking on America.
Yeah.
And its people.
Yeah.
Like you ungrateful people.
Right?
Dude, the same way.
Man, we are so freaking blessed here.
I know.
It's insane.
Yeah, and the things we spend our money on versus what other people spend their money on, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And just the waste, right? It's just like, gosh, man, I hate throwing things away now.
I know.
I really do. I refuse to use paper plates at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. I just refuse to use them. My wife was like, whatever, I'll use it. I'm like, that's fine. It's your choice, whatever. But I hate using paper plates, right? I'd rather use the one plate that I have. And I use the same plate, wash it up.
But then you're wasting water.
True. But because we have
You have a well?
we have wells.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. And then also it goes out and we have it goes out into the yard and stuff. So
there we go. Okay. Septic. There you go.
Yeah.
My
So
man.
don't really feel like we're wasting it on that end of it. So
That's good.
anyway, so cool. Thank you. I'm going to read this.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Good. You're professional speaking,
Yeah.
right? So I'm very interested in that.
Thank you. Me too. I hope that, hope it happens way more.
Yeah. What type of clients do you typically get right now?
Okay, so
Recently,
writing for professional.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Because I also am like trying to get into the market of professional speaking. Like, that's kind of something that I feel
Like keynote speakers and things like that?
Yeah, just kind of share my story as well as be funny and just give truths, especially godly truths. So that's something that I feel like the Lord wants me to really step into in the next season. So putting that out there. And then as far as my clients go, bro, it's been incredible. I think one of the big speeches that really stick out to me that just popped in my head, I wrote a Father of the Bride speech for a client that was like the CEO of a huge investment company.
Oh, wow.
Like 40 billion in assets, like really big time stuff. And and I knew it was a big gig because his assistant reached out to me to book me through everything.
Right.
And that's kind of a tell where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like you don't get this too often. Normally it's like some guy named, Jack, and my best friend from college getting married,
Yeah.
But so yeah, he was just really cool, and he really liked the speech that I wrote for him to the point where he got it framed for his daughter, and she gave it to her as a gift.
That's pretty cool.
And then from there, he just started booking me on like these corporate speeches for him. So I started writing like, basically he was on board in kind of like a new kind of like core values kind of, I guess, like rollout system for his company. And he wanted me to kind of piece together all that.
Yeah.
And so I did that. So that was super cool. And then he had another speech coming up where it was kind of like the end of the year sales kickoff where he kind of just highlighted the year.
Yep.
And so it's just cool, man. I just feel like one thing bleeds into another. And that's why you can never rule out the power of just like doing well and serving your client super well, because that could lead to way other opportunities that you don't even know about. Like I intentionally was like wedding speech. And then boom, can you also do this? Can you also do that? And once you start getting those questions of, can you also do this? That's when you got to kind of add that to the tool belt.
Yeah, sure.
Because I learned that too, even with resumes. Like I don't know how to do resumes, but somebody asked me to do one. And then I hired somebody to do one. I saw what she did. I saw the formatting she did. I was like, done. I can do that too. You know what I mean? So now I offer resumes for help for people.
Nice.
I don't love writing resumes. Like they're not fun. So I don't like market that. But if somebody DMs me about it, I'm like, yeah, I can do that for you. You know, especially if I know you, it's a lot easier to get a hold of me,
Yeah.
And, but then, so the corporate speeches just started happening. And then I started getting way better graduation speeches. I've written like for Harvard graduation speeches, which is two of them, which is one for law, one for medical, which was incredible. And then just a whole bunch of like really cool stories of people that are chosen for the grad speeches have like epic lives,
Right.
Because they're, and then like a congressman I wrote for as well that went back to give like a keynote speech at the college that he went to. So that was cool. So all these like crazy opportunities that I'm not like, asking for or seeking out, they just seem to kind of come based on the experience I've built up of becoming a top rated seller on the platform because I pop up when people search speechwriter.
Right. That's pretty cool. So I guess for a new client, let's say someone's interested in that, right? What do they expect whenever they interact with you? Maybe they send you an email or whatever. do you give them a questionnaire that they're going to fill out? Right?
Yeah. And that's kind of the best way to do it without having to jump on a Zoom call.
Right.
I can jump on a Zoom call, obviously, but I'll probably be asking relatively the same questions. So it's just best if you give me the ammo and then I piece it together.
Yeah.
I kind of enhance your work. I polish it up. And so it's essentially us writing it together, you know, unless you want me to embellish. You know what I mean? I can always do that.
Right.
And then ChatGPT definitely changed the game for us because now people feel that ChatGPT is enough, but in reality, the human experience, and like the jokes specifically, like ChatGPT can't capture that. Yeah, terrible jokes, dude. You know, they're always like they're worse than dad jokes, dude. You know, it's horrible jokes.
Yeah, computer dad jokes.
Yeah, dude, that's a great way to put it. You know, so I have seen a fall off when it comes to like script writing for podcasts and YouTube from that, which is fine. You know, I'm more so just like going. You have to go with where you're at, you know, you can't like hone in on me like, oh, AI took my job, you know, you just got to adapt to it, you know. So
true story.
That's where we're at with that right now.
I love it. So if someone's interested in that, can they go to you direct, or what's the best way for someone to reach out to you?
Well, thank you for asking that. I actually created a website this year called rippywrites.com.
Okay.
So that's kind of my domain now. It's still I Like Words branding, but Rippey Writes is the website handle, and that way there's different packages you can browse through. Sure. You can contact me on there. You can book a consultation. You can see the services. It's essentially just my own platform because Fiverr does take 20% fee. So that's like having an agent, you know what I mean? And it's like, you do bring me the lead, so I really appreciate it. But also at the same time, you'll get a cheaper rate if you come directly through me, as well as just helps me build my business off of the platform.
You know, I can definitely see even some, you know, entrepreneurs, right? They're about to go speak to a client, right? And it's a potentially life-changing client, right? That could open up doors and everything sounds really, really good in our heads. Right. We can go through that speech in our heads. It's like, man, they're going to buy. And then you get up there and you're like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right.
That pressure.
And you could blow it. Right.
Bro.
And to have something polished. Right. That's from the outside coming in. And then you can just practice that and bring it with you and boom.
Boom. Exactly, bro. Right. I had this doctor, dude, Dr. Peter, I'll just say his first name. And he was doing a 9/11 memorial speech. And this dude had like years of experience, like in the force, helping people in the force. And he was speaking at the New York Museum this year. So it's coming up. And we connected on Zoom, and this guy has like written books and courses and all that stuff. And it was so interesting to you think that like, oh, he wouldn't need help with a speech, but like he has a hard time writing about himself, and he just really wanted kind of like an outside perspective to kind of help him kind of lay a foundation for him. And I did that for him, and he crushed it. He excelled by getting he got what he wanted, and he was so excited about it. And I know he's going to crush it because it's coming up. And so it's just cool because you're able to see just how you're able to help people, even that are talented at writing. And like you're saying, bro, that preparation and even just having 20 minutes of preparation before you go into something like that and having like bullet points at least, or like a foundation to be able to present that to somebody, it speaks volumes.
Do you also, sorry to interrupt, do you also work on like a PowerPoint type of presentation for them, or is it just the speech? Here you go.
Just the speech. Okay. And people people have asked me that before too, but it's just a whole nother layer that would be like, I mean, we could. What's the price? You know what I mean? Like, if you want to double the cost of the speech, sure, because like that just takes way longer time to create slides and all that stuff. But it's definitely, I think, a possibility in the future, especially if we build out. I want to build a team. You know, like that's kind of you don't want to be the only one writing forever. You want to build out a team. So that's kind of in the future if we continue growing down this path. We're kind of in this place where we have I Like Birds and I Like Words, and we're kind of just waiting to see like what's going to be the main thing. Nice. You know,
nice.
And I know maybe I can ask you that because what do you consider? You have multiple businesses, so what is your main thing? Do you have to have a main thing?
I don't think you have to have a main thing. I mean, obviously you need to have something that's going to supply the money to fund the majority of your life, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people that are in, let's say, corporate America, and then they want to start a business, right? So many people want to jump ship into that business without getting the ship closer so you can put one leg in each boat, right? And so for me, what that looked like was whenever I was at the RV dealership, that was my 17-year gig that I started when I was 21.
Really?
Right? Worked in the RV industry for 17 years and then decided to be a business owner. So, but for 2.5 years, I did both, right? So I worked from 9 to, I say 9 to 6 if my old boss is listening, which he's not. So actually the moment he left, I gave him about 15 minutes and then I would leave. So
wow,
just so I wouldn't pass him on the highway getting to the martial arts school. So I'd run there and I'd work until 9 o'clock 10 o'clock at night. And I did that every single day for 2 years.
That's grinding.
Right? But to the point where, we had basically 2 different checking accounts. And the moment we could pay everything out of the martial arts checking account and we didn't need this money,
wow,
that was time for, hey, I could leave.
Okay.
I could leave, right?
That's a good barometer, right?
Yeah, yeah. And just so you know that way, because some people jump ship and they're like, okay, well, I got enough money to last me this long. Okay, what happens if it doesn't work and it takes longer? Then you're in a world of trouble. So, if you have to play double duty for a little bit, then you do that, right? And then in
this economy, we got to play double duty.
Hey, I'm playing triple and quadruple duty someday. So, but
no, that's a great perspective. I'm glad I asked you that. It's funny you said the RV thing. I actually got a funny story for you. I went right when my writing business, because bro, Fiverr's algorithm is an algorithm based, so if you have like I don't even know what happened, but I've had a couple, maybe 2 or 3 times where I've gone off the front page when you search like best man speech or whatever. Okay. And I'd be on like page 7 and I'm like, I'm not getting any leads. I'm not getting anybody and I have no idea why. They don't tell you. It's just one of those things. So you're at the mercy of the algorithm, which is frustrating and can be really detrimental as a father and a husband and provider and all those things, right?
Yeah.
So this was like right before I moved into my house that I'm in now, which I've been there for about 2 years. We were about to have a mortgage and all this stuff, and like it just slowed down. And I was like, man, I gotta go get a job somewhere. And so I applied to Camping World.
Okay. Yep.
And I was like, because I have RV experience, and they actually called me, dude. They called me for an interview, and I was kind of like, I don't know, because like my speeches started coming back, Fiverr started picking up again, and I was like not sure about it, and I was like, all right, let me just go hear them out and hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I look at my wife and I'm getting dressed, and I haven't been to an interview in years. I'm getting dressed, and I'm like, so is jeans and a polo okay? She's like, yeah, just be you. Like that's good. Like it's solid. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna be me. I walk in there, resume in hand, smiling, handshaking. I think looking good. But this guy comes out and he's like, hey man, you gotta wear slacks to the interview. You gotta.
Oh, you're applying for sales?
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta wear slacks for the interview. You can go home and get slacks, or you can just come back another day. And I was like, because right when I went in there, I prayed to God. I said, open the door you want open, or close it if you want it to be closed.
Yep.
And bro, he closed it right then and there. Because I was like, man, if I go home and I put on new pants, they own me.
Right.
And I'm the Lord's. You know what I mean? Like they own me if I go home and I put on pants, know? Yeah. And I don't know. It's just weird to go from like freedom and freelancing and entrepreneurship and like I'm working for the kingdom to like I'm gonna go put on slacks to work at Camping World, So and people in the comments might say something about that, like it's professional, and I get it, it's just it was the door that I needed to be closed. I went back to my car all smiling, like, oh God, you knew exactly what I needed to hear to say no to this job.
I love it. That reminds me of whenever I after high school, I put myself through fire school.
Oh, nice.
TCJC back then, right? Went through fire school, EMT school, and got all certified.
Dude.
And I was applying for different cities. Went to North Richland Hills, applied for them, went in. They had a huge table, bunch of people in here just drilling me on this and that, and got out into the car, and I just sat there, and I was like, just had this sense, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wow.
Right? So Selena had called me. And she's like, how'd it go? I was like, I think it went pretty good. She's like, you think you got the job? I was like, no. I told him that I don't want the job. She's like, you did what? It's like, yep. Fire academy, being a firefighter is not for me. She's like, you just put yourself through college for this. What do you mean? And then I got into the RV industry, and
dude, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Because that's like that's just you know the voice.
Yeah.
You know his voice,
Agreed.
And we can do something that we think is like our own, we can go our own way, and then at the last second he'll speak up, be like, I don't think this is for you. And you're like, I don't think it's for me either.
Yeah. Yep.
Now I gotta tell my wife.
Yep. It's pretty cool. Well, cool. So what else? You got the I Like Birds, you got I Like Words, which is your professional speech writing.
Yeah, man. And then starting the coffee gig.
I'm interested in this, right?
Yeah.
I know this. Thank you for Hey, y'all should feel special. dropped it first on the Biz Life.
On the Biz Life, yeah. Why not?
So a couple things we can chit chat real quick about. Number one is whenever you get that up and running, I've been looking for a partner in coffee because at Gray's Craze we have a brunch board. And I would love to have like a bag of coffee that I can gift with the board or some kind of promotional thing. So when you get that, let me know. I have an outlet for you.
Sweet. Thank you. Perfect.
Number two is what if one of my listeners are interested in your services, right? I know, definitely don't want to get a price, but can you give like a range of what someone can expect? $100, $1,000?
Yeah, it just depends. Yeah, it depends on what type of speech, of course. Definitely. But I would say that like 200 to 300 is kind of the realm for like wedding speeches and graduation speeches. Corporate speeches, probably like 500 to 700 range, just because they're they're for big hitters. And then everything else, podcast and script is probably in between 175 to 250 as well.
Okay. So here's what I would like to do. And if you're okay with it, if one of my listeners reach out to you, matter of fact, the first listener that reaches out to you that said they saw you on the Biz Life, that's what they would have to do. Then I want to give them a $150 gift card to your services.
Wow.
Okay. I know you don't do gift cards, but you just call me and say, hey, someone booked, and I'll write you a check for $150. Well,
that's beautiful.
To cover $150 of the service that they provide.
I love that. Well, I'm grateful. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
All right, so here it is. I'm just making this up as I go.
I like it.
I'm recording it, and we're going to put it out on YouTube and everything. So as soon as this hits, then it'll be live. So where do they go to?
RippeyWrites.com.
Okay, you go to RippeyWrites.com, and if you'll reach out to Zach, let him know you saw this episode on the Biz Life, and then the first person that does that is going to get $150 off your services, and I'm going to cover myself personally.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And thank you for showing love to I Like Birds, man. It's
of course.
That's a podcast that we just do for the Lord, man. And we do it for the one that's listening that can really grow in their faith. And we've had on incredible people, man, from Pastor Troy Brewer to Bishop Alan DiDio, Dr. John Deloney. The guests have just continued to just be incredible and just, I feel like, life-giving to our audience. And we actually had a guest on this past Friday, our youngest guest ever, 18 years old. Her name was Ava, and she experienced high school pregnancy, and she chose life despite a tragic prognosis that her baby got. And she just shared her testimony. It was just so powerful. And I just believe that in a time such as this, the election year and just the spiritual war we're experiencing, it's important to be edified and uplifted in faith. So
Agreed.
I definitely think that God's doing something special in our podcast and our ministry. And it's just the business is cool, and this is the Biz Life Podcast. But I think that in order to have good business, you have to know a lot of the godly principles such as stewardship, generosity, wisdom. There's a lot of biblical components that come with business. So I encourage, if you're not a believer, man, try out Jesus Christ. I promise I'm wearing the shirt because I mean it. I love Jesus and Jesus loves you. And Donnie and I actually connected over our faith, and it'll connect you with some amazing people as well once you start really sowing into the kingdom.
Love it. So on your podcast, it's just I Love Birds. It's found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everywhere.
Yeah, it's found everywhere. We're on YouTube as that's kind of the place we really try to drive people, just because we're in video and we're really sewing into that. So yeah, I Like Birds podcast, hosted by Zach Rippey, and you should see it right there when you search I Like Birds. Don't search I Like Birds because that song comes up.
Well, do this. If you're watching on YouTube, just go down to the description below, and I'm going to put your links in there.
Perfect,
right there.
That's amazing. I appreciate that.
Cool, man.
Yeah, man. All right, this was fun. Thank you for having me, bro.
Absolutely. So I always like to end with something. I like to put you on the hot seat or whatever.
All right, let's do
What's the craziest thing that you've ever been a part of?
Oh man, the first thing that popped in my head was not very Christian.
No. Yeah,
but I'll tell it.
Hey,
I'll still tell it. Yeah. I'll still tell it. I'm not.
We're real and raw.
All right, so when I was and this is the reason I couldn't be a police officer. So you're getting the inside scoop. I went to police academy, kind of similar to you.
Okay.
And they made me take a preliminary exam. It was like a pre-polygraph, and I kind of shared some things alluding to this. But when I was in high school, man, rap music was a thing.
Sure.
People selling weed was a thing.
Yep.
And so I decided to run with the wrong crew, and I tried to do that. I tried to sell weed for 2 weeks of my life, and they were the most stressful 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
I hated it. My car stunk. I didn't like the people that were buying the weed.
Yeah.
And I went to go you get fronted I can't believe I'm sharing this story. That's so funny. You get fronted, right? And I was 16 years old. I didn't really know what this meant, you know. And so I went to this guy's terribly small apartment, and to get fronted $80 worth of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the dude like put a gun to my face.
Oh crap.
And telling me like not to mess with his stuff and like get me my $80 back when you sell this or whatever. And it was super scary.
No kidding.
Because this dude like held it to my head and face, you know, like right then and there. And that's when I was like, bro, I made like $100 doing this. It is not worth it. I will go to Papa John's and deliver pizzas from here on out. So that experience really shook me.
Crazy, yeah.
And it really made me see that, like, yo, like that world is not good. You know, you can even say like, oh, it's just weed. That's how people talk, you know, these days. And it's like, bro, even that, like in that like realm of things, like people are sketchy and it's not good. It's not worth it. And so hopefully that encourages people that are listening to this to like not turn to that, because there's way better options out there for young people to make money. You know, sell some shoes, start a business, sell some lemonade, mow some lawns. You know,
kidding,
you don't have to do that. And it's one of my biggest regrets. It's one of the things I wish I didn't do or experience, because it just didn't lead to anything fruitful. But and also it led to me not being able to get a job that I thought I was going to get. You know, but hey, you know, that was before Christ. You know, that was before the spots.
Well, and again, I mean, before, after, we're still going to screw up, mess up. We're always flawed. You know, but what I love, and I thank you for sharing that, right? And what I love is that, and I tell people, like, look, you know, people have a view of who you are, right? Because what we put out, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes pulling that curtain down and just saying, hey, this is me, right? All my boogers and zits and whatever else, right? I don't even know why I said all that, but you know, this is me, right? And for them to know you and for you to share that, man, that's so cool. Thank you,
bro. And I feel like there's a power in being real and raw, and just like real Christianity, I think, is the way to win people to Christ, bro. It's like, you know, it's not all glamorous. We're in His holiness, and His sanctification is a process in us, and He's the one that transforms us. It's not anything that we can do. We're never going to be too clean to get in that water, you know. But once you get in that water, you come out renewed and reborn. And so that story is from high school, and this is who I am now. So redemption is possible.
Love it, bro.
Love it too. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you being on the Biz Life, and man, we'll have to do this again. Maybe one day I'll be on.
I like birds. Yeah, for sure, man. We'll set that up, man. All right. Beautiful.
Yep. All right. Hey, thank y'all for watching. Really appreciate y'all. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share out. It really does help the algorithm and grow the channel. So we'll talk to you soon.